Pretending to be in love, the school bully and the school hunk made a bet, who can capture me, a poor student, first. They pretended to be affectionate and launched a massive pursuit of me. When I completely fell, gave my first kiss in sincerity, they cruelly revealed the truth, except you, the whole school knows about this live capture. A country bumpkin, do you really think a rich boy will fall in love with you? I was like a drowned dog, laughed at and excluded by the teachers and students of the whole school. In a trance, I accidentally fell into the water and died tragically. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the day when the live capture began. After school, I was blocked at the corner of the stairs. The school bully Ryan leaned over to look at me, his eyes playful. Excellent student classmate. I heard that you are the first in the grade again in this monthly exam. Ryan is the only son of the Ryan family in Beijing, and he grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. As the largest sponsor of the E-News Noble College, the Ryan family is thriving in the business world, and the 2 generations above have a little red background. In my last life, Ryan asked me to help him cheat on the monthly exam, but I refused. Later, he got a double-digit total score and was scolded by Ryan's grandfather. Ryan blamed me for everything. He always used his fists to deal with boys he didn't like. But Ryan felt that hitting girls was too low class. So Ryan came up with a prank. He made a bet with his good brother Hugh, betting on who could take down a poor student like me first. Hugh got the school's monitoring authority and broadcast the whole strategy on the campus forum. To make it more interesting, Ryan even launched a voting bet for the whole school, betting on the time when I would give my first kiss to one of them. In the end, all the rewards for this live broadcast went to the person who guessed the most accurately. The unruly school bully Ryan, the cold and gentle school hunk Hugh, and the huge reward pool. This live broadcast set off E-News College. After all, I was a high school student who had not experienced much of the world. How could I resist the romantic pursuit of 2 handsome young men? After I agreed to Hugh's confession, Ryan, who lost the bet, was furious. He cruelly revealed the truth to me. You can't believe it? This is a love strategy, and the whole process is live broadcast. You are also an excellent student. I think you are a narcissist, right? You don't really think that we like a country bumpkin like you? Since then, I have become the biggest joke in the school. In their eyes, my early coldness and rejection were unromantic, my softening attitude in the middle period was pretentious, and my later spring feelings were self-indulgent and wishful thinking. Everyone was laughing at my stupid ugliness. My grades plummeted, and I dropped out of the top 50 in the final exam. My scholarship was cancelled, and my family was in debt. My parents died in a car accident on the way to work to raise tuition. After many blows, I fell into the swimming pool in a trance and drowned silently in the winter of my second year of high school. Afterwards, the school attributed my death to academic pressure, punished me with a glass of wine, and then gently opened the door. Ryan was stimulated and sent abroad. Later, he was always drunk and had girlfriends around him. I just heard that the eyebrows and eyes of each of his girlfriends were somewhat similar to mine. Hugh inherited the company after adulthood and became a well-known philanthropist because of his many donations to poor mountainous areas. He married a female entrepreneur from the countryside. At the wedding, he gazed at the bride gently and said that she made him find the feeling of first love when he was with his childhood sweetheart. Hey, Sue, didn't you hear me? Ryan stretched out his hand and waved it in front of my eyes. He looked unruly and wild, and his deep eyes gave people the illusion of being stared at by a beast when staring at people. I know, the strategy live broadcast has begun. The barrage on the campus forum was flying. What kind of shit luck did the top student have? The school bully and the school hunk chased her together. I bet a week's pocket money. This time I hunted the school hunk and won. Who can refuse the cold and aloof academic god? Then I bet on the prince of Ryan's family. Sister still loves the handsome little wolf dog more. Hee hee. Ryan took a deep breath and repeated patiently, I said, I came here this time to give you a chance to make money. I heard that your family is from the countryside, so you must be short of money, right? Come to my house to tutor me. 1,000 per class, how about it? I glanced at the camera at the corner of the stairs without leaving a trace, then lowered my head and whispered, Classmate Ryan, thank you for your kindness. But I have plans for the weekend. Weekend. I walked out of the school gate. When I passed the grooming mirror, I paused and looked up at myself in the mirror, thin and reserved, pale skin, the whole face even looked a little dull because of the lack of expression. The biggest advantage of my facial features is my eyes behind the black framed glasses. Of course, I can take off my glasses now and change some of my reputation. But how can I change myself as impressive as letting them discover it themselves? I know that even if I don't fall for it this time, Ryan and the others will come up with new pranks to tease me. With my current ability, it is impossible to compete with 2 celestial dragons who can cover the sky with one hand, but at least in this life, I have figured out their ways. Isn't it just acting? Who can't act? I lowered my eyes and walked towards the flower shop where I usually work. Most of the students at Enu's college are either rich or noble. For a good reputation, the school will admit several top-notch students every year. In addition to good grades, top-notch students also have the characteristic of being poor. If they are not poor, they will not go to an aristocratic school that doesn't fit in for a scholarship. As long as I stay in the top 10 of the grade, not only will my tuition be waived, but I will also receive a scholarship of 5,000 yuan every month. And since I entered school, I have never ranked other than the first place. So I am used to sending the scholarship back home and working part-time to earn living expenses. Flower shop. Before I even entered the door, I heard Helen's excited voice, "Xiao Sui, a big order came in today." On her mobile phone screen, a delivery order was displayed, 9,999 Floyd roses. The orderer also specifically specified that the flowers should be from Ecuador. Helen's face was flushed. This order can make at least 5 figures. In the last life, Ryan easily ruined my part-time job at the flower shop in order to force me to agree to his tutoring. He spent a lot of money and ordered a large number of Floyd roses. When Helen and I ran all over the city overnight and collected enough flowers, we only waited for Ryan's light words, "It's boring, don't want it." Ryan's family is very powerful, and Helen has no place to complain, so she had to bear the huge loss of the final payment. She came here to open a shop to escape her husband's domestic violence. After this incident, she closed the flower shop and had no choice but to return to her hometown with her husband. Seeing my low mood, Helen was a little confused. "Xiao Sui, what's wrong?" I shook my head. "Helen, this order is not right. Don't prepare the flowers yet." Although Helen hesitated, she temporarily gave up the idea of buying in large quantities at my insistence and agreed to delay for a while. In the following week, I no longer went to the library to study, but hid in the dormitory after class, so that Ryan had no way to see me. As soon as the strategy started, the progress was so worrying Ryan became visibly irritated. As I expected, within a week, he couldn't sit still. On Saturday, Helen took a lunch break in the storage room, leaving me alone to watch the store. I had just finished writing a test paper, and when I looked up, I saw a familiar tall figure flashing outside the flower shop. I immediately reacted the time had come. At the same time, Helen's mobile phone on the cash register vibrated. I answered the phone without hesitation. Less than 10 minutes later, a bald man with a beer belly rushed into the flower shop aggressively. Bang! He kicked the door open and asked in a rough voice, "Where is that bitch Chen Yan?" Helen was awakened and walked out of the storage room with sleepy eyes. When she saw the man, she immediately showed horror. Why are you here?" The bald man snorted coldly and stepped forward to pull Helen's hair. I hurriedly stopped in front of Helen and asked loudly, "Who are you? What are you doing?" The bald man sneered, "Who am I? I am her man. I beat my own woman, it's natural. If you don't get out of the way, I'll beat you too." I trembled slightly because of fear, but still trembled and said loudly, "Domestic violence is illegal. If you don't leave, I'll call the police." The bald man smiled grimly and waved his hand, pushing me to the ground. I fell in front of the flower shop in a mess, and my glasses were also knocked out. My knees hit the threshold, and I screamed in pain and curled up. I lowered my eyelashes, but a barely perceptible smile appeared on the corner of my mouth. I will not make a mistake. The figure outside the flower shop just now was none other than Ryan. I know, Ryan's live broadcast camera is attached to his collar. That thing is a high-end product, both the picture quality and the sound quality are top-notch in the industry. The noise just now was so loud that both Ryan and the classmates in the live broadcast room must have seen the scene of Helen and I being bullied. I know Ryan too well. He is not only a reckless asshole, but also a spirited teenager. Whether it is for the strategy or out of his impulsive and irritable instinct, he will definitely stand up. This drama of a hero saving a beauty has been played here. Next, it's time for the male protagonist to appear. Sure enough, the next second, I saw a pair of long legs crossing the threshold and walking into the flower shop. Before everyone reacted, Ryan had already wrestled with the bald man. The barrage on the forum has been crazy. "Aw, so handsome. It's so cool, the hero saves the beauty and wins, he is the most sincere boy, oh. God really helps the prince, I will bet on him right away." Awesome, the real-time live broadcast prize pool has soared to 1.74 million and is still rising, the final winner is blessed. Although Ryan has learned karate, the bald man is tall, and his body is almost twice as thick as his. At first, Ryan temporarily gained the upper hand with fighting skills. But later, the bald man took advantage of his absolute weight advantage, seized a flaw, and pressed Ryan under him. In the messy flower shop, the bald man with bloodshot eyes pressed on Ryan and pinched Ryan's neck tightly. He baa at Ryan and cursed, "I told you to find fault. Are you the mistress of that bitch?" Ryan was pinched so hard that his face turned red and he struggled hard. Just before he was about to suffocate, I picked up a glass vase and smashed it hard on the back of the bald man's head. Bang, the bald man's body paused, and then fell down with a bang. Ryan took a few breaths, then kicked the huge and fat body away with a kick. He sat up with a gloomy face, and when he saw the scene in front of him, his eyes suddenly widened. Ryan's amber eyes reflected my backlit silhouette, a beautiful girl holding a vase tremblingly and with tears on her face. You? As soon as he opened his mouth, the vase slipped out of my hand and rolled to the ground, making a crisp sound. I couldn't support my injured legs anymore, and fell forward with powerlessness. Ryan subconsciously leaned over and hugged me. When I fell into his arms, I heard the violent heartbeat in his chest like a drum. The suspension bridge effect refers to the fact that when a person experiences a stimulating situation that causes the heartbeat to accelerate, he may mistakenly attribute this physiological reaction to love. The scene just now was a part 1 carefully designed for Ryan. The impulsive young hero wanted to save people from danger, but was saved by the girl at the last moment. I have rehearsed every expression and every action in my mind 10,000 times. Listening to his rapid heartbeat, I was so excited that I trembled all over. Ryan patted my shoulder helplessly, and comforted me in a rare and clumsy way. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Don't cry, it's okay. The bald man, Helen's husband, was arrested by the police for intentional injury. Although the sentence for domestic violence has always been light, it was Ryan who was injured this time. With his vindictive temper, the bald man should not be able to get out for a while. Helen thanked Ryan profusely and praised him as a modern new good youth. As a school bully, Ryan has always been a troublemaker. How could he be praised for being brave? He touched the scratch on his nose, but 2 suspicious blushes appeared on his cheeks. It's okay, I just came to see Sue, and I didn't expect to encounter such a thing. Don't thank me, it's just a matter of convenience. To thank Ryan, I took the initiative to offer to tutor him on the weekend. He was obviously very proud, but still pretended to be arrogant. Come to my private villa at 3 p.m. next Saturday. Also, don't wear your broken glasses, they are so ugly. On the weekend, in the study room of Ryan's private villa, I was tutoring him in mathematics. In my last life, I just agreed to tutor Ryan when I found out the truth about the closure of the flower shop. Ryan and I had a big fight, and the tutoring ended unhappily. In this life, I am going to take tutoring Ryan seriously. After a few math problems, Ryan's eyes became clear. Seeing him biting his pen and staring blankly at the first fill-in-the-blank question, I sighed silently. The barrage began to gloat. The school bully must regret tutoring, it's his own fault, ha ha ha. It's embarrassing to watch. He tried to flirt with the top student several times just now, but the student was completely unmoved and focused on the questions. Is it just that I think Sue's explanation is very good? It's easy to understand, and I, a math scumbag, can understand it. At the same time, I noticed the old housekeeper holding a mobile phone in the crack of the door to take pictures. Although the old housekeeper tried her best to lower her voice, she was still excited. Mr. Madam, God has opened his eyes. The young master actually started to learn mathematics. Me. Seeing that Ryan was already daydreaming and about to fall into a sweet baby-like sleep for the 3rd time, I said helplessly, let's stop here for today. Ryan subconsciously agreed with the 3 consecutive, oh. So that's how it is? I understand. No. Get out of class is over now. I nodded, your foundation is too poor, it's better to proceed step by step. Ryan nodded with relief, his face full of gratitude for surviving the disaster. Before leaving, I took out a Freud rose from my school bag. Looking at the roses handed to him, Ryan was stunned. You, give me flowers? I nodded without hesitation, yes. A customer of the flower shop cancelled the order and paid a large amount of liquidated damages. I bought you a flower with the bonus Helen gave me. Thank you for helping us last time. Seeing Ryan's complicated expression, I raised my eyebrows and said, if you don't want it, forget it. Ryan immediately snatched the flowers from my hand. Who said I don't want it? When I walked out of the villa, the sun was setting. In the afterglow of the sunset, a figure was riding a horse, galloping on the horse field outside the villa. Seeing me come out, Hugh pulled the reins and rode in front of me. He has outstanding looks, and his neat white riding clothes make him look taller. The Hugh family is not as prominent as the Ryan family, and can only be regarded as a new technology elite. But Hugh is gentle and polite, and he knows how to advance and retreat. All the teachers and students in the school have a good evaluation of him. In my last life, I was deceived by his disguise and agreed to his confession. When Ryan told me that this was just a strategy, I didn't want to believe it, until Hugh admitted it himself. Facing my questioning, Hugh still smiled gently, but his words were extremely hurtful. Sue, I just found out that you actually look like my childhood sweetheart. But she is pure and well-behaved, not as cheap as you. So what if she is always the first in the grade? She is just an easy-to-handle inferior. If Ryan is naive and cruel, then Hugh is pure malice. At this moment, under the sunset, Hugh lowered his eyes and looked down at me gently. Thank you for coming to give Ryan a tutorial. From now on, you will have to bear with him more. I raised my head and looked into his beautiful eyes without hesitation. Are you saying that Ryan has a bad temper and is difficult to get along with, so I have to bear with him more? Hugh was stunned, and soon laughed. That's not what I meant. At the same time, the chestnut horse suddenly snorted, lowered his head and rubbed my palm affectionately. Hugh was surprised. Andrew is a Hanoverian warmblood horse with a bad temper. I've never seen it so close to strangers before. It likes you very much. I sneered in my heart. Hanoverian horses have always been known for their calmness and gentleness. How could they have a bad temper? Of course, I understand the meaning of this lie, a straight ball like Ryan's that rushes straight and recklessly can easily make people wary. And Hugh is a smart hunter. In the last life, he chose to lower my guard with an unintentional coincidence, and then through repeated exposure and contact, he gradually deepened my affection for him, and finally made me take the initiative to offer my first kiss. Seeing that I had no reaction, Hugh leaned over slightly and extended his hand to me gracefully. Student Sue, do you want to ride a horse together? The beautiful sunset, the handsome boy, and the perfect atmosphere, Hugh was sure that I would not refuse. But he miscalculated. In the last life, Hugh pulled me onto the horse's back and used the suspension bridge effect when riding a horse to make me feel excited about him, and then started the strategy. Now, I glanced at his hand stretched out in front of me and suddenly asked, "What is that?" Hugh's eyes flashed with impatience after being disrupted repeatedly. He retracted his hand, followed my gaze and untied a black iris-decorated collar pin and handed it to me. I stared at the black collar pin. I know that Hugh's live camera is hidden in it. Not only does he have many means and a high level, but he also has a strong mentality. He actually dared to hand it to me directly. The barrage was trembling. Why do I feel like she is looking at me through the camera? Scared. JPG. No way, the Hugh family's camera equipment is the most advanced, and the live broadcast forum has also blocked her. So exciting, a carnival. Seeing me staring at the iris collar pin, Hugh said nonchalantly, "Do you like it? If you like it, I can give it to you." I looked away and smiled abruptly. No need. I don't like the flower language of black irises. 07 Hugh insisted on driving me back to school. In fact, the villa is not far from the school, only a 10-minute drive. The trouble is that there is no direct bus from here to the school. Looking at Hugh sitting in the Lamborghini Revuelto sports car, I said with some embarrassment, "You are not yet an adult." Hugh smiled and took out a driver's license and shook it. "Don't worry, I passed the test abroad." Then, "Classmate Sue, I wonder if I have the honor to give you a ride?" On the way back, I silently recited words in the back seat of the car. At this time, the live broadcast barrage was also very lively. Ah, the cold school hunk is so Sue. Poor students are also very uneducated. Maybe he is pretending to be noble and playing hard to get? Isn't this how idol dramas are played? No, am I the only one who noticed the super sound of this supercar? Top sports car, speeding. After a while, the car stopped at the school gate. I wanted to open the door to get out, but found that the door was locked. I frowned and looked at Hugh in the driver's seat, and heard him jokingly ask, "Student Sue, how are you going to pay for the fare?" I took out 2 crumpled $100 bills from my bag and handed them to Hugh with a painful look on my face. "No need to change." Hugh smiled and said, "Very sincere, but unfortunately I don't need money." He and I confronted each other silently for a few seconds. Suddenly, I tilted my head slightly and said in a daze, "Have we met somewhere before?" "Student Hugh, I just realized that you actually look like my childhood sweetheart." The barrage of boos. What an old-fashioned pickup routine. She doesn't think that this will make the school hunk look at her differently. Identified as an idol drama fanatic. Has no one noticed that the school hunk hasn't spoken for a long time? Hugh looked at me with a slightly hesitant look. I smiled and added, "But he is pure and well-behaved. He won't lock a girl in the car like you do." 08 After getting off the car, I stood by the car and stuffed the $200 into the roll-down window with a smile. As I watched the angry steel behemoth roar away, the smile on my face gradually faded. In the previous life, Hugh said at the wedding that the bride with a similar smile to mine reminded him of his childhood sweetheart, his first love. Hugh and I come from very different families, and it is impossible that we grew up together as childhood sweethearts. So there is only one possibility: Hugh has a childhood sweetheart, and I happen to look like her. Since I knew this in advance, there is no reason not to take advantage of it. So, I took the title of his childhood sweetheart. Hugh is sensitive, suspicious, and thoughtful. For such people, you only need to throw out an ambiguous question, and they will spend their time to find the answer, and in the process, he will inevitably get to know me and understand me. Speaking of which, I have to thank Hugh in the previous life for teaching me so many skills. The next few months were calm. Every day I go back and forth between the classroom, the library, and the cafeteria. On weekends, I first work part-time at a flower shop, and then go to tutor Ryan. Every time I go to see Ryan, I bring a Freud rose. Ryan went from being awkward to gradually getting used to it. I did not perfunctorily teach because of what happened in my previous life, but patiently and carefully sorted out the knowledge for him. In my previous life, I was criticized for refusing to tutor Ryan. Rural people are awkward and not sincere at all. Some people even slandered me for cheating after my grades dropped due to depression. But this time, I will not leave any handle. The weather gradually turned cooler, and it was winter with short days and long nights. The first semester of the second year of high school is about to end, and the final exam is also approaching. Weekend. Privata villa. Ryan sat at the desk, with a rare nervous look on his face. How is it? I put down the red pen I used to mark the test paper. You scored 63 points on this math test. You have made progress. Passed. The old butler who had been prepared cheered and then fired a small salute in his hand that he got from somewhere. Bang one, amid the fireworks and streamers, Ryan pulled me up from the chair and held me and kept spinning around. I was startled and regretted not reminding him that the full score was 150. Seeing this, the old butler quietly retreated and closed the door considerately. I was dizzy from being spun around, and I knocked Ryan's head with gritted teeth. Put me down. If you spin around again, there will be no flowers for today. Hearing this, Ryan immediately put me down and started to act cute. I was wrong and shouldn't tease you. I won't dare to do it next time. Where are my flowers? Reward me quickly. I glared at him and handed him the rose. Ryan took the flowers and smiled wickedly. I lied to you. I'll do it again next time. Me. God gold. 09 The end of the semester is approaching, and I am getting busier and busier. Library. I was preparing for the next semester's courses, and suddenly someone pushed my shoulder. When I looked up, I saw a girl with short hair and a round face. She blushed and handed me a pink envelope. She said, Sue, can you help me give this letter to classmate Hugh? I frowned and didn't take it. This girl's name is Sasha. Like me, she is also an excellent student who was admitted based on her grades. In the previous life, she was one of the few students who did not participate in the Strategy Live broadcast. After my death, she learned the truth and wrote a report letter for me. It's a pity that the letter was intercepted by the Hugh family as soon as it was sent out, and it didn't cause any waves. Seeing my silence, Sasha quickly explained, every time you go to cram school on weekends, it is Hugh who takes you back. So I want to trouble you. I simply refused. Sorry, I can't help you. Sasha was stunned for a moment, with a puzzled expression. Why? Do you like Hugh too? As soon as this was said, the surroundings were instantly silent. Some brave classmates began to sneak glances in my direction. I glanced at the cameras on the ceiling not far away, and then shook my head at Sasha. In short, it's not possible. Sasha is simple and kind, and she is definitely no match for the cunning Hugh. I don't want her to repeat the mistakes of my previous life, but I can't tell her the truth because of the ubiquitous live cameras. I can only hope that she will give up. Sasha bit her lip, stomped her feet, and forced the pink envelope into my hand. If you don't like Hugh, help me. Sue, thank you. Watching her running away, I clenched the love letter in my hand expressionlessly. After the love letter incident, Ryan's attitude towards me suddenly turned cold. Normally, he would send me hundreds of messages a day, math problems, emojis, and even some meaningless chatter. But now, Ryan has been silent for a week. I have a lot of academic pressure, and I am happy to be quiet, so I naturally want to take the initiative to find him. If I can see the live broadcast barrage, I will find that the audience has begun to light candles for me. I feel that the serious CP is going to be, but it's a pity that I just brushed 9 rockets. The school bully really cares about the love letter. Don't wash it. Sending flowers to the prince while being jealous and throwing away the love letters given to the school grass by others, isn't this playing two boats? What a pity, I was a little bit of a fan of them. Saturday afternoon, I arrived at the door of Ryan's villa on time. After ringing the doorbell, I didn't see him open the door for a long time. I took out my phone to send a message to Ryan, but saw a red exclamation mark indicating that I was blocked. I frowned and rang the doorbell again. 10 minutes passed, and still no one came to open the door. Although I am not very knowledgeable, I also understand that this means that I am not welcome. I turned around and left, but suddenly there was a click sound of the door opening behind me. Come in. A cold voice. I walked into the villa, and Ryan was lazily leaning on the sofa in the living room, operating the game controller absent-mindedly. I was left there, a little at a loss. After a game, Ryan finally looked up at me with mercy. You still remember to come to me? I thought you would never come to me to explain. I was a little confused. What do you need to explain? I'll give you a makeup lesson. Makeup lesson? Ryan sneered. We haven't talked for so long, I thought the college bully had forgotten to give me a makeup lesson. He threw down the controller, stood up and grabbed my wrist, half-dragged me to the study on the second floor. Ryan pushed me into the study and slammed the door with a bang. I staggered a few steps, and before I could speak, Ryan waved his hand and swept everything on the desk to the ground. In the mess, Ryan didn't say anything and carried me to the desk. I sat on the desk in an awkward posture, and my anger rose. But Ryan didn't restrain himself at all. He supported his arms on the table on both sides of me and leaned over. I was squeezed back by him, and I was very irritated. Ryan, what are you doing? But the next second, Ryan raised his hand to pinch my chin and kissed me fiercely. I was startled and slapped him subconsciously. Pa dash, the crisp slap sounded and the study returned to silence. Ryan slowly turned his face, his eyes fierce and cold. He asked word by word, Sue, tell me, why did you throw away the love letter to Hugh? I took a deep breath. Ryan, we are a simple employment relationship. I tutor you, and you spend money to buy my time and knowledge. Except for math problems, I have no obligation to explain anything to you. Ryan looked at me for a long time and suddenly sneered, employment relationship? You bring me a Freud rose every time you come. Is this an employment relationship? I looked straight into his eyes. As you wish, I didn't bring you flowers this time. Ryan narrowed his eyes dangerously. What? I didn't explain, but just repeated, this time, I didn't bring you flowers. Flowers are just rewards. Since you don't want it, then there is no this time, and there will be no future. The implication is that there is no need to ask me for tutoring in the future. Ryan didn't give up, staring at me, trying to find any trace of anger on my face. After finding that my expression was still calm, his eyes gradually deepened. So in the end, you have always been just for money. So money can buy you everything? That's great, I have plenty of money. You top students may not be worth the carefully raised horses in my manor horse farm. Pa, I used all my strength in the slap. Ryan was raised by his family since he was a child, and he was also a prince who could call the wind and rain at school. When was he unilaterally slapped twice? He lowered his head, and his arms were bulging with veins. It was obvious that he was on the verge of a rage. Just as I was about to kick him in the crotch, the door of the study suddenly rang with 2 knocks, and was opened from the outside. The old housekeeper, with a cold sweat on his face, held a plate of cut fruits and said tremblingly, Master, classmate Sue. How about some fruit? I pushed Ryan away, jumped off the table, picked up the school bag on the ground and walked out. When I walked out of the study, Ryan's low and fierce threat came from behind me, Sue, don't regret it when you leave this door today. I paused for a moment, and then strode away. When I walked down the stairs, I heard a loud noise of tables and chairs being kicked over from the second floor. At the same time, the barrage was faster than running. What kind of mad dog robbed the little white flower just now, so tacky but so addictive? Scare the rat, Sue was really brave just now, those 2 slaps were so loud. I bet they kissed today, my $1 million bonus. Damn, can I get in without class today? I even set an alarm. At the entrance of the villa, Hugh leaned against the door frame, looking at me with a smile. What, did you quarrel with Ryan? I told you a long time ago, be more tolerant of him. His collar was empty, he didn't wear the black iris collar pin that hid the camera. I didn't intend to pay attention to his gloating, but Hugh reached out to stop me. He suddenly asked, don't you have a pure and well-behaved childhood sweetheart? Why do you want to mess with others? Girls who are fickle will be punished. At this moment, I finally noticed the unusual tone of his voice, and a guess suddenly emerged in my mind. I stared at him. Did you arrange Sasha's love letter? Guessed it right. Hugh clapped his hands lightly, his eyes sparkling with surprise. He looked excited, as if he was playing the most interesting game in the world. I know that girl likes me. I asked someone to hint to her that she could send me a love letter through you. It's easy. After all, you are the top student who plays best with us, right? I almost laughed out of anger. So what is your purpose? Just to make Ryan hate me? At this moment, Hugh slowly played with the ring on his hand. I want you to tell me all the stories about you and your childhood sweetheart. For example, did you come to Ineos College because of him? He was forcing me to prove my identity. My face remained unchanged. I'm in a bad mood today and don't want to answer. Please bear with me. Hugh laughed again. Okay. But I believe that one day you will cry and beg me to tell me the answer. On the campus forum, Hugh's live broadcast screen has been black, and everyone has gathered at Ryan's live broadcast. It's good that technology is developed. In my lifetime, I can actually watch the Prince live broadcast to destroy the house. Be bold to open the microphone. I really don't understand why so many people lick the prince. My husky is more human than him. B is good. Poor students like Sue marry into a wealthy family, and they are bound to be wasted by the evil mother-in-law. Don't spread rumors in front. The master and his wife like little Sue very much. Everyone was shocked by Ryan's rage, and sighed and ridiculed me, the abandoned concubine of the prince. They guessed that this hunting live broadcast would soon end completely because of Ryan's disgust with me. At this time, I just returned to the dormitory. I tried to calm my mind, spread out my preview notes again, and forced myself to continue studying. A new week. Ryan and I continued the Cold War. I was the discipline committee member on duty this week, responsible for organizing the swimming test this semester. After the test, I was about to close the door of the swimming pool, but suddenly I heard a burst of laughter from inside. I hesitated for a moment and reopened the door. In the swimming pool, several students gathered by the swimming pool. They were both men and women, but all of them were dressed exquisitely, obviously rich or noble. In the swimming pool, a round-faced girl with short hair was trembling and diving into the water again and again, as if looking for something. On the shore, the leading girl smiled sweetly. Sasha, hurry up and fish it out. My watch is worth millions of dollars. If you can't fish it out, you will have to pay for it. Because the swimming test was over, the heating program of the indoor constant temperature swimming pool had stopped. In the ice water, Sasha hugged her arms, her eyes red. Student Han Shasha, I'm sorry. I'm not. Han Shasha interrupted her with a sneer, just fish it out when I tell you to. Aren't you trying every way to get close to Hugh? Since you like being a gold digger so much, I'll give you a chance. It's almost an open secret that Han Shasha likes Hugh. It's not surprising that she made trouble for Sasha. Sasha had no choice but to dive into the freezing water again, hoping that fishing out the watch would make these people let her go. Looking at this scene, I clenched my fists. This college is full of young masters and young ladies who can't be messed with. They can decide the future of other students and even teachers at will. Maybe at this point, I should just turn around and leave. After all, Sasha has nothing to do with me. I couldn't protect myself, so I helped her block the love letter at that time, which was also my duty. But looking at Sasha's blue-purple face from the cold, I remembered the scene before my death in my previous life. At that time, my scholarship was cancelled and my school card was in arrears. A penny can make a hero fall. No one was willing to lend me money, so I could only work outside the school frequently and rely on 2 steamed buns to fill my stomach every day. That day, after barely completing the swimming test, I received a call and learned about the death of my parents. I hid in the locker room and cried for the first time. While crying, I told myself to hold on, even if fate played tricks on me, even if the arrows of suffering shot at me were enough to block the sun, I would continue to fight in the shadow. I would not surrender, I would live. When I left the swimming pool, I suddenly saw a shining coin by the swimming pool. I turned back to pick it up, but I slipped and fell into the winter swimming pool. Although I am an excellent swimmer, I was hungry, cold and exhausted. In the last moment before drowning, I still struggled to reach out to the surface, hoping for a chance of survival. At this moment, Sasha was still diving to retrieve the watch. I took out my phone expressionlessly and sent a location to Hugh. The other party quickly replied, "Are you begging me?" I ignored it, but put the phone on a chair beside me, and then raised my voice to the group of people by the pool. If you want to retrieve something, you can ask the pool manager to drain the water. There is no need to torment people like this. To drain the water, you have to let the people in the water come up first. Sasha just climbed out of the pool, and Han Shasha suddenly raised her hand and pointed at me, "Hold her down." Several minions immediately came over, handcuffed my hands behind my back, and pushed me in front of Han Shasha. I knew that I couldn't resist, and all I could do was delay time, so I didn't make any unnecessary struggles. Han Shasha grabbed my hair at the back of my head and forced me to raise my head. She looked at her for a moment, then sneered, "She's not that pretty. A poor student who pissed off someone you can't afford to offend. Where do you get the courage to uphold justice for others?" Someone came up to smooth things over. It's unnecessary, it's unnecessary. Hitting her will dirty Sister Sasha's hands." Han Shasha agreed. So, she turned to Sasha and said sweetly, "Sasha, come over here and slap her twice now. The matter of the watch will be written off." Sasha looked at her in shock, opening her mouth and unable to react. What? Hearing such a disgusting trick, I narrowed my eyes in disbelief. Han Shasha was even more excited. She added, "If you can beat her until she cries, we will never bother you again at school." Sasha was pushed in front of me. She was shaking like a sieve, even more violently than when she was soaked in ice water just now. We looked at each other. Then, I heard her voice with a sobbing tone, "Sue? Yes, I'm sorry. Pa." Then, a slap fell on my face. Han Shasha laughed out loud. "There is another slap. Don't be cunning, hit me hard." Pa, another slap. I was hit so hard that my head tilted away, and my new glasses fell to the ground. Han Shasha squinted at my face and said with regret, "What can I do?" She didn't cry. She tilted her head and smiled at Sasha. "I'll give you another chance. Push her into the swimming pool, the reward is the same." Sasha looked at me with a shrinking look. Han Shasha urged sharply, "Why don't you do it? Do you still want to go down and get the watch?" So, I looked at Sasha with tears on her face, stepped forward, raised her hand, and then pushed me into the swimming pool. Han Shasha was satisfied and let Sasha leave the swimming pool. The depth of the swimming pool is 2 meters. I need to keep treading water to get my mouth and nose out of the water. In the freezing cold water, I heard Han Shasha give an order: since Sasha is gone, you will take her place to get the watch. I didn't obey, but just stared at her expressionlessly. Oh, someone sneered, quite arrogant. They brought chairs and sat leisurely by the pool. If you don't pick up your watch, don't even think about getting out of the water. They were chatting and laughing on the shore, while my body was gradually losing temperature. If I continued like this, I would be the first one to collapse. I couldn't just sit there and wait for death. So, under everyone's gaze, I closed my eyes and slowly sank into the water. This move was very abrupt. Because it was closing time, there was only one light on the side of the pool. I knew that in such dim light, people on the shore would definitely not be able to accurately identify the specific location of underwater objects. In the cold water, I heard the laughter on the shore stop abruptly, followed by Han Shasha's sneer. I want to see how long she can hold it in. Half a minute. Han Shasha didn't care. What can happen? She got an A in the swimming test, can she still drown? 1 minute. Han Shasha stood up and shouted at the edge of the pool, Sue, I ordered you to come out. Did you hear me? 1.5 minutes. The people on the shore were completely anxious. Amid the commotion, I heard someone lower his voice, let's not talk about anything else, then, the live broadcast has not stopped. If those two haven't had enough fun, then we. Han Shasha collapsed and screamed, this is not my fault. I just want to teach her a lesson. You. Go down and rescue her. And I lurked underwater, under the cover of the dim lights of the swimming pool, slowly moving towards the shore. I identified the people on the shore through the distorted water waves, ready to wait for an opportunity and pull a few people down to accompany me in the cold water. Before I made a choice, I suddenly heard the sound of bang entering the water. A figure suddenly plunged into the water, and the churning waves stirred up countless tiny bubbles. Before I could come to my senses, he quickly swam towards me, hugged my waist, and swam me to the surface. Splash, the sound of breaking water sounded. A pair of strong arms held me steadily, half hugged and half pushed me, and sent me to the shore. Then, Ryan pushed his arms and jumped out of the water. Once out of the water, he first stretched out his long arms and held me in his arms again. He reached out to feel my breath, and his fingers trembled slightly. I pushed his hand away and coughed a few times, I'm fine. The water drops rolled down my face along my hair, like cold tears. I was scared to death. Ryan held my hand that was pushing him away, and touched it to his lips. The fingers are frozen and have no temperature. I got goosebumps all over my body and pulled my hand back hard. Before I pulled my hand out, I heard footsteps coming from far away. I looked up and saw that the person coming was Hugh. He was late. At the same time, Ryan looked up at Han Shasha and others. Although Hugh was soaked, there was still a strong sense of oppression around him. Han Shasha and others shrank and lowered their heads under his gaze. Ryan's eyes finally fixed on Hugh. He said coldly, Hugh, take care of your dog. After Hugh led the others out of the swimming pool, Ryan lowered his head again. He put his chin on the top of my head, and his voice was a little muffled. If I don't take the initiative to find you, will you never find me? I pushed Ryan's chest. Let go, I want to change clothes. Winter uniforms are a bit thick, and they are cold and stuffy after getting wet. But he refused to let go. Ryan's voice was a bit like a spoiled child because of his nasal tone. I took a history class today. I cursed God of Gold in my heart, but he held me in his arms and had to continue listening to his madness. He said, the teacher talked about the dramatic changes in Eastern Europe and the disintegration of the Soviet Union. So what? He said, the Cold War is over. He held my arm and tightened it quietly. Sue, the Cold War is over. Let's make peace. After changing into dry clothes, I checked the time and walked out of the swimming pool. Ryan and Hugh were waiting for me at the gate. To be honest, I didn't expect Ryan to come. I just found out that it was Sasha who went to find Ryan first and asked him to save me. Thinking of Sasha's back as she ran out of the swimming pool in a drenched state, I lowered my eyelashes and was a little absent-minded. Sasha would be coaxed into pushing me into the pool, and would also try her best to ask for help from me after she got out of trouble. So I don't blame her. But if I can forgive Sasha, should I also forgive Ryan and Hugh? At this time, Ryan saw me. He strode forward and wrapped the scarf around my neck. Hugh beside me also asked gently, do you want to go to the school infirmary for a checkup? I looked up at them, and suddenly my eyes turned red and tears fell. Ryan was at a loss for a moment. What is this? I looked at them seriously and sobbed softly, thank you. I didn't expect you to really come to save me. I know that I am a student from the countryside, dull, old-fashioned, and incompatible with you. In fact, I have always been afraid that you will laugh at me, dislike me, and look down on me. But why do you have to be so nice to me? Hearing this, Ryan stayed where he was, his expression blank for a moment, and I stood on tiptoe and gave him a shy and gentle kiss on the cheek. After a moment of silence, the barrage quickly went crazy. Kiss. I wrote down the date. The specific time is XXXX year X month X day, 19 hours 23 minutes and 3 seconds. After following the live broadcast for most of the semester, I don't hate the top student that much. She's not too timing, she's just afraid that the round-faced girl will be bullied because of the love letter. Sue is actually a nice person. When she entered high school, she brought local specialties to her classmates. But everyone disliked them and refused to eat them, so she never brought them again. I wonder how the school bully feels now. Will he regret using Sue to make a bet? Seriously, does no one think that this strategy live broadcast is really too much? At this moment, the balance of public opinion finally tilted towards me. Ryan was stunned for a long time, and then he blushed and pulled me into his arms. He said awkwardly, "You are a very good person, no one will treat you badly. Why are you so crybaby? Stop crying, okay?" I buried my face in Ryan's arms in embarrassment, but the corners of my mouth couldn't help but rise high. I finally waited for this scene. Yuan Liang? Grateful? It's just a disguise. The only high ground that the fledgling victim can occupy is the moral high ground. They approached me with malice, trying to seduce me to show my ugly side, then break my pride and make me covered in mud. Then I want them to see my clear and transparent soul with their own eyes. I want everyone to see that their full of malice is exchanged for my flawless sincerity. When the truth is revealed, who will be the most ugly, and who will become the biggest joke? I can't wait. 16 School Infirmary. I finished my ginger tea and lay on the bed to take a nap. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I heard the footsteps of two people outside the curtain of the bed. Someone carefully pulled open the curtain. I heard Ryan lower his voice, "Shh, she's asleep." Hugh responded softly, "Yeah." Someone put his palm on my forehead. Seeing that I didn't have a fever, they both retreated outside the curtain. I was pretending to be asleep, but it was a bit awkward. I was about to pretend to wake up, but suddenly I heard Ryan whisper, "Hugh, I don't want to continue the bet. I have terminated the live broadcast on the forum, and I will freeze the reward pool first. This micro live camera is returned to you." Hugh was silent for a moment. "You like her?" Ryan admitted straightforwardly, "Yes. After the final exam, it will be Inu's school anniversary dance. I plan to confess to Xiaosui at the dance." Hugh's voice trembled unnoticeably. "What if she doesn't agree?" Ryan, not taking it seriously, he said confidently, "Xiaosui kissed me. Besides, my appearance and family background are both top-notch. I will treat her well in the future." Hugh interrupted him, "But what if she already has someone in her heart?" Hearing this, Ryan's voice suddenly turned cold. "Hugh, I know you were investigating Xiaosui's past. No matter what you dug up, this matter ends here. Keep what you shouldn't say to yourself. In exchange, the Hugh family can start preparing for the West City project." After taking the last final exam, I walked out of the exam room. Ryan was waiting for me in the corridor. Seeing me come out, he hurriedly put the revised manuscript in his pocket, and then greeted me with a smile. "Before I opened my mouth," he said, "I did all the math I could do. I wrote down the answers to the questions I didn't know, and copied them down. I'm sure I'll pass." Ryan said with sparkling eyes, "You said before that if I can pass the math test, you'll grant me a wish. Does that still count?" Seeing me nod, he laughed heartily. "Then I want you to go back to the villa with me. I finally invited my mother's styling consultant today, so you're lucky." 17 in the afternoon, Ryan handed me over to the styling consultant, but he ran away with a red face, saying that he wanted to leave suspense for the dance in the evening. Makeup, change clothes. I was tossed around for the whole afternoon, and then the old housekeeper drove me to the door of the auditorium where the dance was held. Tonight, the first snow fell. When I got out of the car holding my skirt, the bell on the auditorium tower rang. At 7 o'clock in the evening, the dance began. Everything was just right, as if it was destined. I ignored the astonished looks around me, just walked up the stairs and walked towards the auditorium. At the solemn and classical door of the auditorium, I saw Hugh in a black haute couture dress. He held a champagne in one hand and looked at me with a smile. "You look beautiful tonight." I said, "Thank you." Hugh seemed to have drunk a lot of wine, his breath was slightly panting, and his cheeks were flushed. He stared at me and suddenly said, "I'm sorry." I was stunned, with a puzzled expression. "Why apologize?" Hugh whispered, "For everything." I stared at Hugh for a long time, until he looked away in embarrassment. I laughed out loud. I said, "Hugh, you have nothing to be sorry for me. That time at the swimming pool, I sent you the location, and you came as soon as possible, didn't you? As for what you said to me before, I know, you just want to scare me and ask me for an answer." Hugh shook his head sadly. "This answer is no longer meaningful. Go in, he has prepared a surprise for you." He stepped aside and let me walk into the auditorium. When I passed him, I secretly pinched my arm, and my eyes suddenly turned red. With tears in my eyes, I lowered my head and whispered to Hugh, "You asked me if it was because of him that I came to Innis College. I want to tell you, at least, it was once. There are not many truths in this world, but the tears of a girl are better than a long monologue. After saying that, I left without hesitation. Behind me, someone whispered, "Did Hugh not hold the champagne firmly?" 18. As I walked into the auditorium, the lights slowly dimmed. Amid everyone's exclamations, the lights on the auditorium stage came on. Ryan appeared on the stage in a pure white haute couture suit with a shining rose brooch on his chest. His hair was solemnly combed back, revealing a large forehead, with a cold and noble outline. Ryan took the pole microphone and said in a low voice, "Recently, I often dream of someone. She when she was studying hard, she when she saved the hero, and even when she pouted when I was angry when she was explaining the questions. Everything about her deeply attracted me, and I couldn't help but be moved by her." The passionate love in his words made the audience restless, and some people even covered their mouths with emotion. At the same time, several spotlights were cast on me at the same time. Ryan stared at me through the crowd. "The language of Floyd's roses, you carelessly shuttle through my dreams, turning my heart into a fragrant garden. You have been wandering in my dreams for too long. Now, can you please come to me? Sue, I like you. Will you be my girlfriend?" At the same time, rose petals fell from the sky, interweaving into a beautiful dream like a bubble. My classmates' envious or encouraging eyes urged me to quickly agree to him. The spotlight waited, I blinked, and said nervously, "I." Sizzle. Before I finished speaking, the harsh sound of electricity suddenly resounded throughout the auditorium. At the same time, the huge screens on the four walls of the ballroom began to flash and play pictures. Act 1. At the corner of the stairs, Ryan looked at my fleeing back and snorted irritably, "How could I win over this country bumpkin if he doesn't agree to tutoring? Wait until I ruin her part-time job, I'll see if she dares to refuse me." The screen switched to the second scene. Ryan held a Freud rose and said excitedly and frivolously, "She gave me flowers, just wait and see, I'll take her down in 3 days." The screen switched again to the third scene. "Sue, don't regret it when you leave this door today." The screen kept shaking, and the person filming was smashing things in anger. "Who is she? How dare she show me a bad face? A low-class woman who is fickle. Wait until I get her and win the bet. I won't be Ryan if I don't play her to pieces." The quickly flashing pictures, malicious words, and unbearable comments. Under the gaze of everyone, my face gradually turned pale. Ryan on the stage was stunned, and then he began to roar angrily, "Turn it off. Turn it off for me." But all his anger collapsed instantly when he saw my tears. Ryan's expression was blank for a moment, and then he strode towards me, "Shao Sui, it's not what you see. I can explain." I took a half step back, "Don't come over." One action explained everything. At the same time, Hugh walked out of the crowd and blocked me. He was still holding a high-foot glass, and the whole person was elegant. "Ryan, she asked you not to come over." Ryan looked at him, his expression gradually gloomy. "It's you? These live recordings are yours, right?" Hugh did not answer, but emphasized again, "Ryan, she rejected you." This time, he responded with Ryan's fist. Amid everyone's exclamations, Ryan knocked Hugh to the ground. "We've been brothers for so many years, you know how much I like her." Hugh fell on the carpet in embarrassment, but with a smile on his face, "But you also know that as long as I tell that thing." Ryan punched Hugh's beautiful cheekbone, "Shut up." His tone was cold and his expression was cruel. "Hugh, your family has so many illegitimate children. If I turn against the Hugh family, you will be immediately driven down from the position of heir to the Hugh family." While they were fighting, the videos on the 4 large screens were still playing. The screen turned into a voting collection interface. Ryan's excited voice was heard in the background, "Hugh, let's set up a live broadcast prize pool. All the rewards for the live broadcast of the strategy will go into this prize pool. Everyone can bet, just bet on when that country bumpkin will give his first kiss." At the same time, a huge prize pool accumulated amount appeared on the screen, 5 million. The names of all those who participated in this live broadcast gambling flashed, like a grand public execution. The auditorium was silent, and you could almost hear a pin drop. At this time, Hugh's smile finally froze. He muttered to himself, "This is not what I did." The screen showed the betting time of the final winner, 19 hours, 23 minutes, 3 seconds. There was a suppressed whisper from the crowd. Someone was incredible. "It's a bit scary, this time, exactly? Whose vote is this?" At the same time, the final suspense was revealed, and the name of the winner appeared on the screen, Sue. My name. Countless eyes were cast on me. I stood in the spotlight, gently wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes, and finally showed a sincere smile. Ryan and Hugh looked ashen. They looked at me in disbelief. "Shao Sui?" I smiled and nodded to them. "I am willing to accept the loss. Remember to deposit the prize money into my bank card." After that, I lifted the hem of my skirt and turned to leave the auditorium without any reluctance. Dormitory. I nestled in the warm and comfortable quilt, looking at the text message of 5 million yuan arriving, and felt at ease for the first time after my rebirth. Outside the window, there was not only the sound of falling snow, but also the faint fragrance of roses. I knew that Ryan was sitting in a convertible sports car filled with Floyd roses downstairs of the dormitory, waiting for me to appear. He shouted until his voice was hoarse, from apology to confession, and even swore that he would never do it again. And I found his number that I had just blocked and sent 2 words, very noisy. A few seconds later, the world finally quieted down. At 2 o'clock in the middle of the night, the snow was getting heavier. I couldn't sleep, so I just did some homework, but suddenly I saw a gorgeous firework explode outside the window. Ryan stopped shouting, but stubbornly, non-stop, set off fireworks one by one. I closed the curtains, put on earplugs, turned off the lights and went to sleep. I don't know how long I slept, but I was suddenly awakened by a violent knock on the door. I took off my earplugs and immediately heard a noise downstairs in the dormitory. Someone fainted. Ambulance. Call an ambulance. Private ward of the hospital. Hugh and I sat beside Ryan's bed. Looking at Ryan, who was unconscious on the bed, Hugh suddenly said, "Xiao Sui, I have thought about it for a long time. Even if I lose my status as the heir of the Hugh family, I still want to tell you." I interrupted his confession mercilessly. "You are really weird." Looking at this handsome boy, I asked the doubts I had always had. "You haven't even learned the simplest respect. Why can you stand in front of me with a high-sounding manner, pretending to have a special liking for me?" Hugh's face instantly turned pale. The air was silent for a long time. I was about to get up and go out to get a glass of water, but my sleeve was suddenly pulled by someone. I turned my head and saw that Ryan on the bed still had his eyes closed, but his eyelids were slightly red. He woke up. Ryan stubbornly didn't let go, whispering, "Don't leave, okay?" I pulled his hand off, stuffed it back into the quilt, and said lightly, "It's really stupid to seek forgiveness from others by hurting yourself." At this time, the door of the ward was pushed open from the outside. The old housekeeper walked in with a well-dressed middle-aged couple, Ryan's parents. Ryan's father looked at Ryan, who was in a mess on the bed, and was almost shaking with anger. "Rebellious son. Look at you, you are so worthless. Are you going to scare me and your mother to death?" Ryan's mother at least restrained the anxiety on her face. She touched the top of Ryan's head with heartache, then turned to look at me. "You are Xiao Sui, right? Would you like to talk to your aunt?" Seeing me nod, Ryan struggled to get up from the bed. His eyes were red, and he trembled and grabbed Ryan's mother's hand. "Mom, can you help me persuade her? I have never liked a girl so much. Mom, please." Hospital VIP room. Ryan's mother handed me a cup of tea gracefully. She said, "Xiao Sui, my husband and I already know everything. Xiaoyan and his friends were too absurd about the live broadcast. The Ryan family will be responsible for your ruined reputation." As compensation, Ryan's mother gave me 2 choices. She drank tea and looked at me gently. "Many people say that true infatuation will only be born into a wealthy family. Although this statement is biased, it is not without reason. Xiaoyan has been well protected since he was a child. He may be naughty, but his nature is not bad." Ryan's mother observed my expression and said carefully, "The first choice, the Ryan family will send you to study abroad together. You don't have to worry about the cost. After graduation, if both of you are willing, you can get married." I have to say that Ryan's mother is very smart. With Ryan's personality, forcibly separating us will only make him more stubborn because of his rebelliousness. So, she wanted me to stay with Ryan and take it slowly. To this end, she even offered what she thought was an extremely tempting condition, marrying into a wealthy family and crossing the class. I was very touched, and then quickly asked, "What about the second choice?" Ryan's mother was stunned. "Don't you like Xiaoyan?" Hearing this question, I lowered my eyelashes. After a long time, I whispered, "Maybe. But I will never be with someone who has deceived me." Ryan's mother was silent for a moment, and then touched my head like a gentle elder. "Xiao Sui, you are very smart. Listen to your aunt's advice, stay with Xiaoyan. Even if you leave now, this hunt will not end. Once a teenager who doesn't know love and hate has an obsession, he will chase you madly for the rest of his life." Her eyes were deep. "We can't control our children for a lifetime. After several years, when they are fully grown and have mastered all the power, when they catch you at that time, are you sure you can bear all the backlash at that time?" I put down the cold tea in my hand and looked at Ryan's mother calmly. "Aunt, you forgot one thing. When they find me in a few years, I will not be the same person I am now. I will become stronger, stronger than all of them." Finally, Ryan's mother agreed to pay the penalty for my transfer, and used her connections to secretly send me and my family to a small city in the south. Before leaving, she pulled my coat for me. "Good boy, Auntie promises you, no one will find you before your 20th birthday." When I left the hospital, the snow was still falling. I did not miss the warmth behind me, but calmly walked into the dark night with howling wind and snow. There was only wind blowing snow between heaven and earth, and it fell all over my head. I don't know how long I walked, I just felt the wind and snow gradually subsided. When I looked up again, I saw the sun rising in the east, the light was brilliant.